All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about some risk reward free agents. I actually did find uh, what I was looking for with the NFL um, regarding the last segment. So, yeah, they did send out a memo to teams reminding staff members of their prohibition from being involved in game day altercations. So, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Um, But yeah, let's get into now the risk reward free agents. It's a tongue twister here. So there was an article that I saw that talked about some free agents that listen, you could take the chance on them, and if they pan out, you get rewarded. But there's also some risk that comes along with that. So there are 6 free agents. So let's talk about them. So the first one is Baker Mayfield. Now I think Baker Mayfield is going to eventually find his way back to Tampa. Um, I think that would be the smart move. I again, like you're going back. Well, they do have a new offensive coordinator, but I mean the familiarity there, I feel like going elsewhere. I mean, who knows how that would pan out? I feel like with Tampa, you kind of know what you're getting at this point. But also, again, we've talked about the Bucks a lot. They got a lot of free agents. I mean, you got Mike Evans, who they got to try to bring back as well. That was, big part of Baker Mayfield's success in Tampa was Mike Evans. And if you lose Mike Evans, well, you still got Chris Godwin, and they got some other guys as well. Like Trey Palmer made some plays. Their young receiver, you got Kate Otten there, the tight end as well. But yeah, I mean, losing Mike Evans would be huge. So, that's something the Bucks are gonna have to figure out. But yeah, I mean, it's still a risk reward because I mean, listen, Baker's coming off of a great year, but I mean, it's again, it could end up not panning out, and he ends up not playing well. Because again, at one point during the season, the Bucks were 4-7. It didn't look like they were gonna go anywhere at that point. But then then Baker got hot, played well the second half of the season, and they were able to get in. But I mean, listen, I like Baker Mayfield a lot, but I don't look at him as he's not. I don't think he's up there as an elite quarterback. But again, I think he's solid. But I mean, he could definitely, if the Bucks pay him, I could definitely see a scenario where he comes back next year and they don't play as good. And especially because I think the division's going to be better. I think if the Falcons figure it out at quarterback, I mean, they're going to be better. The Saints with Derek Carr, and I mean, we'll see how they figure out this cap situation because they're like they're $80 million over the cap, 80 plus. It's ridiculous, but that's where they're at. And listen, even though the Panthers were not good this year, I mean, they played some close games with the Bucks. The 21-18 game, and listen, the Panthers, they had 2 touchdowns, but one of them was a touchback because the receiver fumbled, and then you had another touchdown that got called back. So if those touchdowns don't, if the fumble doesn't end up happening, if the penalty doesn't end up happening on the touchdown run, Panthers win that game probably. So we'll have to see, but I think if Baker comes back to Tampa and you bring back Mike Evans, I think he'll be good next year. But again, if he comes back to Tampa and they lose Mike Evans, yeah, that's going to be a big problem. So you also and that's the other thing too, and it said it in the article. Teams may you're taking a risk because you want to see if this was a 1-year thing or is it sustainable. That's really what it comes down to. And then the next one is a guy I talked about yesterday, and that's Saquon Barkley of the Giants. Now, I think, he's definitely risk reward because like if the team gets Saquon Barkley, because again, it doesn't look like the Giants are going to franchise tag him, and I think if that's the case, I think he's going to end up going elsewhere. But again, we'll see. Wherever he ends up, if Barkley's healthy, yeah, you're getting a big reward out of that. And there are definitely some teams out there that need help in the running game. The Ravens, the Texans. I know there's stuff floating out there about Harbaugh wanting Saquon with the Chargers. If they don't end up bringing back Eckler. So, yeah, I mean those are better situations than the Giants. But the problem is durability. Barkley has missed time over the last. He's been injured a lot. 2022 he was healthy, and we saw what he did in that season, his rookie season as well. But all the other years he's been hurt, and that's the risk part is him getting hurt. But when he does play, but I think also that has a lot to do with just the team that he's playing for, the Giants. Because I mean the Giants had, he stepped into when he was drafted. I mean the Giants just did not have a good offensive line. They have not had a good offensive line in all the years really that he's been in the league. And you go to another team that actually has a good offensive line. I mean, who knows what he could do? I mean, but he is getting older. That's the other thing too. Now he's 27, which, I mean, now we're saying, yeah, 27. That's a bad year for a running back. So that's the other thing too. But I think Barkley still has a couple of good years left. But again, I think it's got to be in the right situation. I think with the Giants, it's just they have so many other areas that they need to improve on that, I just think he's better off going elsewhere. But we'll see what the Giants. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening there. But I feel like with him though, I feel like you'd get more of a reward out of it than a risk. But I think he has had some freak injuries like in the Cardinals game this past season. I mean, he got his leg caught underneath somebody. Yeah, and that was why he got hurt. It wasn't just like he ran the wrong way and he had a non-contact injury. A lot of it has been contact. So yeah. But I think whatever happens with Barkley, I think wherever he goes, I think he will produce because again. There's a lot of situations out there that are better than the Giants. The Giants have they're closer to the bottom, and I think if Barkley goes somewhere else, I think if he go, I would love to see him with the Texans. The Ravens, a team that loves to run the ball, except in the AFC Championship game, that would be a great spot. The Chargers with Herbert and that offense with Harbaugh, I think that would be those are much better situations than the Giants. So for him, I'm kind of hoping he goes elsewhere. But because for the Giants, they have so many issues. But yeah, so now some of the other players here, Marquise Brown, again, a wide receiver that has a lot of talent, but has kind of been slowed down by injuries. They brought him in to pair with, DeAndre Hopkins, but that just never really materialized because last year, DeAndre Hopkins I think he was suspended. So, and then I think Marquise Brown got hurt. So we never really got to see them together. But yeah, I mean, listen, you go back to his Ravens days. I mean, he shows potential, but, it just hasn't really, been consistent. So we'll see where he ends up. Being on the free agent market. I mean, listen, I think, if you need a receiver, I mean, maybe he goes to the Chiefs. That's one team that I could think of that, listen, the Chiefs are a team that need receivers. So, I mean, Marquise Brown, he'd step in. I mean, you're not going to be the top option, but you could be that deep ball guy you could add that dimension back into the Chiefs offense, if you get him. But we'll see. And then a few other guys here. So Tyron Smith of the Cowboys, their left tackle. Now, again, was one of the best left tackles in the NFL for a long time. Was a part of that great offensive line. Has been part of that great offensive line for the Cowboys for many years. The 2014 team, 2016. But yeah, he's getting older. He's 33. He actually earned his second team All-Pro honors in 2023. But yeah, I mean, the problem with him, injuries. He has been injured a lot. If I can actually, let me see if I can pull up his injury history. But yeah, I mean, listen, he was coming off of a relatively healthy 2023. Um, Again, he stays healthy. Yeah, I mean, you're getting a big reward out of that, and a guy that can cover your quarterback's blind spot. Um, but again, it's injuries are a concern, and that's really with a lot of guys. Is if they play, yeah, but if they end up getting hurt, that just you know that ends up hurting your team. But let's see if I can. Yeah, so I think I have his injury history here. So yeah, he's been injured a lot. I mean, 2020 neck injuries, 2021 a neck injury, ankle. Um, he missed a lot of time. And I see the report. Yeah, he's not retiring, but he hopes to remain with the Cowboys. Um, but yeah, I mean, listen, if he ends up going elsewhere, you're getting a good player. If he's healthy, but if he's not, then but yeah, I mean, again, you get the idea. He's been injured a lot. Um, so we'll see if he ends up staying with the Cowboys. If he ends up leaving, only time will tell. Then we also got Chase Young, um, another player that's dealt with injuries, but talked about his production kind of dipped in his contract year with the 49ers, being traded over there. And there's questions about consistency. And he's only 24, so the potential is still there. But yeah, I mean, listen, again, I'm going to go back to it. The Jahmyr Gibbs rushing touchdown in the NFC Championship game, and it looks like he didn't even try on that play. Yeah, that wasn't a good look. But in the right situation, he could produce. I mean, maybe the 49ers, maybe they possibly bring him back. I don't know. We'll see. But that's another player as well that's listed here. And then also the last player they had listed was Jalen Johnson, the corner of the Chicago Bears. Had a breakout year, but there's questions about his consistency and durability. Showed improvement in interceptions and passer rating allowed, but needs to prove his performance is sustainable. So kind of like, again, like some of these other guys, like Baker Mayfield, like was that year with the Bucks just a 1 year thing, or is that going to be something that's going to be consistent over the course of years? So yeah, despite interest from the Bears, Johnson will need to demonstrate continued growth to justify a big money contract. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I feel like if were to rank them, I mean, I feel like someone, again, if Saquon Barkley leaves the Giants, someone's going to offer him a contract that uh, kind of close to maybe what he wants. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll just have to find out. I mean, again, free agency, the offseason, that's going to be something that we're going to talk about a lot. And obviously the draft as well in the coming months. So, but let me know what you guys think about these players, and if there's a player that wasn't listed, is there another player that's a free agent that you would say is a that falls under this category? Because some of these guys, they could return to the teams that they've played for, like Tyron Smith. Again, says he hopes he remains with the Cowboys, but again, only time will tell. Only time will tell. So when we come back from our final break of the show, we're going to talk about Justin Jefferson, and we'll talk about his contract and what could possibly happen there, and that will be the final part of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.